The call came at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in my office reviewing quarterly projections when my phone lit up with a number I recognized. First National Bank, downtown branch. I picked up expecting some routine verification about a business transfer. Mr. Hamilton, this is Angela Reyes from Bank Security. I need to confirm something urgently. Are you currently at our Fifth Avenue branch? I glanced at my computer screen, then out the window at the office parking lot 12 miles away. No, I'm at work. Why? Is there a problem with my account? There was a pause. Not a long one, maybe 2 seconds, but enough to make my pulse quicken. Mr. Hamilton, your wife Eleanor is standing at our withdrawal counter right now with a man who has your driver's license, your signature, and your face. They're requesting a withdrawal of $52,000 from your joint savings account. The words didn't connect at first. I had lunch with Eleanor 3 hours ago at the cafe near our house. She'd kissed me goodbye, reminded me about our dinner reservation on Friday, told me she loved me. I'm sorry. What did you just say? I asked. Angela's voice stayed calm, professional. Sir, if that's not you in our lobby attempting this transaction, we need you here immediately. We've frozen the withdrawal, but the identification is perfect. Everything matches our records. I stood up so fast, my chair rolled backward and hit the wall. I'm on my way. Before you go thinking I'm some fool who walked into this blind, let me give you a backstory. My name is Vincent Hamilton. I built a software automation company from my garage 11 years ago. Started with 2 clients and a laptop, grew it to 43 employees and 7-figure annual revenue. I'm the type of person who sets up automatic bill payments, maintains detailed spreadsheets, and believes a strong marriage runs on transparency and trust. Eleanor and I met at a charity fundraiser 8 years ago. She was warm, organized, and genuinely interested in my work. She supported every late night I spent building the business, never complained when I traveled for client meetings, even helped coordinate company events when we were too small to hire proper staff. We had a system that worked. Shared calendar, joint bank accounts, Friday date nights, Sunday morning coffee on the back deck. We talked about everything, or so I thought. That phone call taught me something I'll never forget. The most dangerous kind of theft doesn't announce itself by smashing windows or picking locks. It walks through the front door. It sits across from you at breakfast. It sleeps next to you for years. I grabbed my keys and headed for the elevator, my brain running inventory. Eleanor had access to everything. All our passwords, account numbers, financial records. She handled most of the banking administration because I was focused on running the company. Let me take that off your plate, she'd say. You've got enough to worry about. 3 weeks ago, she'd insisted we update our joint account settings for better estate planning. Said it would streamline things if anything ever happened to one of us. I'd signed the papers at home, barely reading them, trusting her to handle the details. And now a detail surfaced that I'd dismissed at the time. Last week, Eleanor mentioned getting an estimate for a pool renovation. We don't have a pool. When I looked confused, she'd laughed and said I must have misheard her, that she meant the deck. I'd let it go, chalked it up to me being distracted. The drive to the bank took 18 minutes. 18 minutes of silence where every moment of our marriage replayed differently. Every time she'd volunteered to pick up documents. Every time she'd said, "Don't worry, I handled it." Every reassurance that I was too busy to deal with household finances. The woman I'd trusted with everything was standing in a bank lobby with a man who looked like me, trying to steal $52,000. I pulled into the parking lot at 3:11 p.m., walked through the glass doors, and everything I thought I knew about my life ended. Before I tell you what I found when I got to that bank, I need you to do something. Hit that follow button and stay until the end of this story, because what my wife had planned gets darker than just stealing money. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I'd love to know where you are listening from. Security met me at the entrance. A woman in her mid-40s with a bank ID badge introduced herself as Angela Reyes, the voice from the phone. She didn't take me to the lobby. Instead, she led me down a hallway to a private office behind the teller stations. We separated them for everyone's safety, Angela explained, closing the door. Your wife is in conference room A at the end of the hall. The man claiming to be you is in the branch manager's office with 2 security guards present. She slid a folder across the desk. Inside were photocopies, a driver's license, social security card, even a passport card. All of them had my name, my information, my identification numbers. The formatting looked legitimate, professionally done, but the photograph showed a different face, similar enough to pass a quick glance. Same build, same hair color, roughly the same age, even styled the same way I typically wear mine. But it wasn't me. Who is this? I asked. That's what we're trying to determine. The documents are sophisticated. If our teller hadn't worked here for 12 years and remembered small details about your previous visits, this might have gone through. My hands went cold. What kind of details? Angela pulled out a second sheet. You always confirm your account balance before withdrawals. You write with your left hand. You have a small scar near your right eyebrow from a childhood accident that's visible in person. This man did none of those things and has no scar. Our teller felt something was wrong and called me. I looked through the glass panel in the door and could see down the hallway. Eleanor sat in a conference room, visible through another window, completely calm. She was scrolling through her phone like she was waiting for a table at a restaurant. Can I talk to her? Angela hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but I'll be present. We walked to conference room A. When I opened the door, Eleanor looked up, and her face transformed into a perfect surprise. Vincent? What are you doing here? I told you I was handling the contractor deposit today. I stayed standing, didn't sit down. What contractor deposit? We don't have any contractors scheduled. She smiled, patient, like she was explaining something to a child. The pool renovation. We talked about this last month. I brought my cousin Derek to help me withdraw the down payment since you were so busy with the product launch. She said my brain caught the discrepancy immediately. Eleanor, last week you said it was for the deck renovation. You just said pool, and you mentioned Morrison Brothers construction. Now you're saying pool, and I've never heard you mention a cousin Derek in 8 years of marriage. For just a fraction of a second, something flickered across her face. Then it smoothed out. The deck is part of the pool project, honey. It's all connected. You know I handle these details so you don't have to worry about them. The words were right, the tone was right, but I'd just caught her in a contradiction, and she'd pivoted without missing a beat. Angela stepped forward. Mrs. Hamilton, I need to show your husband something. She opened a tablet and pulled up account transaction history. Mr. Hamilton, we ran an audit after the attempted withdrawal. There are irregularities going back 14 months. She scrolled through the entries. Small withdrawals and checks I didn't remember authorizing. $800 here, $1,200 there, $1,500 somewhere else. Each one dated during times when I would have been unavailable. Monday morning strategy meetings, out-of-state client visits, early morning hours when I was at the gym. These were all legitimate, Eleanor said quickly. Emergency car repair in March, medical copay in July, the roof leak in September. I handled them so Vincent wouldn't be bothered. Angela kept scrolling. The total withdrawn or transferred in these small transactions over 14 months is $28,400. The number hit me like cold water. $28,000, gone, in pieces small enough that I'd never noticed. I looked at Eleanor. She wasn't panicking, she wasn't scrambling. She looked mildly annoyed, like this was an inconvenient misunderstanding. "I need to talk to Derek," I said. The bank manager, a man named Richard Chen, allowed it with a security present. They brought me to his office where the imposter sat in a chair, relaxed, wearing khaki slacks and a blue Oxford shirt, the exact style I typically wore to casual business meetings. Even his watch was similar to mine. He looked up when I entered. No fear in his eyes, just a mild inconvenience. I didn't waste time. "When's Eleanor's mother's birthday?" It was a simple question. Eleanor should have prepped him for basic family details if this was planned. He hesitated. 3 seconds. In a conversation, 3 seconds of silence is forever. "June 12th? Eleanor's mother passed away before we met," I said, keeping my voice level. "She never had a June birthday. It was October 9th. His expression shifted. Not panic, not embarrassment, just irritation, like a contractor caught using cheaper materials than what was paid for. He leaned back in the chair. "Look, man, Eleanor asked me to help her with something. I didn't ask questions. Whatever's happening between you two, I don't want any part of it." The answer was too smooth, too prepared for someone who'd just been caught attempting fraud. Richard spoke up. "Mr. Hamilton, we've contacted local police. They're sending someone from the Financial Crimes Unit. Without concrete evidence of a crime yet, we can't legally hold him. He'll be released within the hour unless officers arrive first." I nodded, but I wasn't listening anymore, because I'd just realized something. If Eleanor had planned this well enough to create perfect fake IDs and coordinate withdrawal timing with my schedule, there was evidence. And if there was evidence, it was at home. "I need to leave," I said. Angela looked concerned. "Mr. Hamilton, the police will want to speak with you. Tell them I'll be back in an hour. Right now, I need to check something." I walked out through the side exit, got in my car, and drove home. Because if my wife had been stealing from me for 14 months, she wouldn't have done it without leaving a trail, and I was going to find it. I pulled into my driveway at 4:05 p.m. The house looked exactly the same as when I'd left that morning. Neat lawn, the rose bush Eleanor had planted last spring, welcome mat she'd picked out because it felt inviting. Everything is normal, but everything is a lie. I unlocked the front door and stood in the entryway for a moment, letting my mind shift. Stop thinking like a husband who trusts his wife. Start thinking like an auditor examining someone else's books. If Eleanor had planned this for 14 months, there was proof somewhere in this house, I said to myself. I started with the spaces she controlled, the areas I rarely touched, because she'd organized them to make life easier for both of us. The guest bedroom closet was my first stop. We barely used that room except when Eleanor's college friend visited once 2 years ago. I opened the closet door and pushed past the extra linens and old winter coats we should have donated. In the back corner sat a black garment bag I didn't recognize. I unzipped it. Men's clothing, khaki pants, 3 button-down shirts, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 light gray. The same brands I wore, the same sizes. The tags had been cut off, and when I held the blue shirt to my nose, I caught the faint smell of cologne. Not mine. Someone had worn these clothes. My pulse hammered as I moved to the upstairs bathroom. The one Eleanor had claimed for extra storage last year. The cabinet under the sink held the usual items: toilet paper, cleaning supplies, spare towels. But tucked behind the towels was a second electric razor, a different brand than the one I used. Next to it sat an unfamiliar bottle of aftershave and a pair of reading glasses in a case. I don't need glasses. My vision is perfect. These belonged to someone else. Someone who'd been in my house, using my bathroom, preparing to be me. I went to the home office, the room where Eleanor had spent hours organizing our household files to reduce my burden. Like she claimed. She'd installed a new filing cabinet 6 months ago and said it would help keep tax documents separate from regular bills. I thanked her for taking the initiative. The top 2 drawers opened easily: utility bills, insurance paperwork, mortgage statements. Everything organized with labeled tabs in Eleanor's neat handwriting. The bottom drawer had a lock, a new lock I'd never noticed before. I checked the household key box we kept in the kitchen, every key labeled and organized. No key for this lock. I grabbed a screwdriver from the garage and came back. The lock was cheap, probably $15 at a hardware store. It popped off in less than a minute. Inside sat a single 3-ring binder with a plain label: Account Overview. I opened it. The first page was a printed schedule of my recurring commitments. Board meetings every first Tuesday at 9 a.m. Gym sessions Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. Monthly travel to our Chicago office during the 3rd week of each month, always departing on Tuesday morning. Standing lunch with my business partner every Thursday at noon. Someone had documented my entire routine down to the hour. The next pages were handwritten notes in Eleanor's writing. Her handwriting, unmistakable. The way she curved her Y's, the way she dotted her I's. Vincent never checks saving statements. Auto-filed to the email folder he doesn't open. Signature loops the H with a slight upward tail. Needs practice to match exactly. He prefers business casual even on weekends. Khakis and Oxford shirts, rarely jeans. She'd studied me, cataloged my habits like I was a subject in an experiment. Behind the notes were photocopies of my driver's license, front and back, my social security card, my passport, everything someone would need to create convincing forgeries. Then came the signature practice sheets. Lines and lines of my name written over and over, getting closer to my actual signature with each attempt. Some in Eleanor's handwriting, others in a different hand, masculine, heavier pressure. Derek has been learning to forge my name. There were blank bank withdrawal slips, pre-filled with amounts. $3,000, $2,800, $1,900. Every amount was carefully chosen to stay under typical fraud detection triggers. But the worst part, the part that made me have to sit down, was buried deeper in the binder. A timeline. Printed, organized, spanning 19 months. It started 21 months ago, 2 months before Eleanor had suggested we streamline our estate planning. The entries read like project milestones. Month 1. Establish trust, increase involvement in household finances. Month 3. Secure account access, suggest joint management for tax efficiency. Month 7. Identify optimal withdrawal windows, pattern confirmed, Vincent predictable. Month 12. Introduce D as family connection. Create plausible reason for presence if needed. Month 16. Begin extraction phase. Small amounts, varied timing. The final entry was dated 3 days ago. 3 days. Final withdrawal, $52K, sufficient to relocate, clean break, no return. Below it, in different handwriting, most likely Derek's, was a single line. Confirm flight bookings to Costa Rica. No contact after Thursday. I read the timeline 3 times. This wasn't a desperate act. This wasn't a mistake that got out of hand. This was a 19-month operation with a schedule, objectives, and an exit strategy. If you're still watching, make sure you're subscribed because I post stories like this every day. Have you ever had that moment where something small made you realize someone close to you was lying? Drop yes or no in the comments. You'd be surprised how many people have been there. Now back to the story. Eleanor hadn't just stolen money. She'd stolen nearly 2 years of my life, performing the role of loving wife while systematically planning to rob me and disappear. I pulled out my phone and took photographs of every page in that binder, every note, every document, every piece of evidence. Then I sat at the desk and waited, because I knew Eleanor would come home eventually. And when she did, I wanted to watch her try to explain this away. She walked through the door at 6:30 p.m. Eleanor came through the front door at 6:30 p.m., her purse over her shoulder, keys jingling. She looked tired but composed, like she'd had a long day dealing with an annoying administrative problem. She found me sitting at the kitchen table. The binder was open in front of me, the timeline document face up where she couldn't miss it. The bank released me at 4:30 after I explained the misunderstanding, Eleanor said, setting her purse down. I've been driving around trying to figure out how to talk to you about this. Where did you go? Vincent, you're scaring me. Her voice was soft, concerned. Why did you leave the bank like that? Angela said you just disappeared. I didn't answer. I just slid the timeline across the table toward her. She looked down at it. Her eyes scanned the entries, 19 months of planning laid out in organized phases. I watched her face carefully, waiting for shock, for confusion, for some reaction that would tell me this was Derek's doing and she'd been manipulated. Her expression didn't change. She didn't gasp, didn't pretend not to understand. Instead, she said, "You went through my private files?" Not, "What is this?" Not, "I don't understand." Just an accusation that I'd violated her privacy. She pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. Then her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't want you to find out like this. I've been so ashamed, Vincent." The tears looked real. Her voice trembled in exactly the right way. Derek isn't really my cousin. I met him at a support group 6 months ago, for people whose spouses are emotionally unavailable. She let that word, unavailable, sit between us for a moment. When was the last time you really asked about my day? Not while scrolling through your phone or thinking about work. When did you last look at me and actually see me? She reached across the table like she wanted to take my hand, but I pulled back. Do you remember your birthday last year? I planned that whole dinner, your favorite restaurant. I invited your closest friends. You spent half the night on your laptop responding to emails about the product launch. And our anniversary in April. You took a call from Chicago during dessert that lasted 40 minutes. She replied, sobbing. The accusations landed with practiced precision. Specific moments, real events, things that had actually happened. I felt invisible in my own marriage, Vincent. Derek listened. He asked questions. He made me feel like I mattered. I know helping him access funds was wrong, but I was so lonely. I just wanted someone to pay attention to me. It was good. Really good. If I hadn't found the timeline showing this operation started 19 months ago, long before my birthday, long before our anniversary, I might have believed her. I opened my laptop and turned it to face her. On the screen was bank security footage from 11 months ago. The timestamp showed March 14th at 10:23 a.m. Eleanor and Derek was entering the downtown branch together. His arm was around her waist. They were both smiling. In the next frame, they were laughing at something he'd said. I opened a second tab. My credit card statement from March 14th. The charge that caught my attention. Riverside Hotel, 2 counties away, $89. That's the day you told me you were having a spa day with college friends, I said. But my card shows a hotel charge, and the bank footage shows you with Derek that same morning, 2 hours before he withdrew $1,800. Eleanor's tears stopped. Just stopped, like turning off a faucet. Derek told me he needed help. His ex-wife destroyed his credit. He couldn't access his own accounts. I was trying to be a good person. A good person? I repeated. I opened the third tab. Property, records, and background check results I'd pulled while waiting for her. Derek Lansing, released from federal prison 18 months ago after serving 4 years for identity fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. He did this exact thing to 3 other couples before you met him. I turned the laptop back around. So you met a career criminal fresh out of prison for the exact crime you're now committing, and you want me to believe he manipulated you. Eleanor stood up fast, her chair scraping against the floor. You tracked me? You've been going through my expenses like I'm some kind of criminal? Her voice rose, anger replacing the tears. After everything I sacrificed for your business, do you have any idea how many investor dinners I attended? How many times I played the supportive wife while you built your empire? How many nights I ate dinner alone while you worked late? She grabbed her purse. So I wanted something for myself. Is that really so terrible? You have everything, Vincent. Control, money, respect. What do I have? A husband who trusts spreadsheets more than his own wife. The performance was shifting, from victim to wronged partner, redirecting blame back to me. I stayed seated, kept my voice calm. Eleanor, stop. I opened a 4th tab. Derek's prison mugshot filled the screen. Next to it, his sentencing report detailing how he and his girlfriend had defrauded 3 couples over a 5-year period, stealing a combined total of nearly $200,000. Your Victim Act would work better if your partner wasn't a career criminal who's done this before. Multiple times. Something changed in her face. The warmth, the tears, the anger, all of it evaporated in an instant. What remained was something I'd never seen before. Something cold and calculating. You've always underestimated me, Vincent. Her voice was different now, flat and factual. You think you're the smart one because you built a company. I built a life. I played a role for 8 years. The supportive wife, the charity volunteer, the woman who made your house feel like a home. She moved toward the door. And you never suspected a thing. Not once. That's how good I am. She continued. I'm leaving. If you try to stop me, I'll tell the police you threatened me. Your little recording won't matter when I show up with bruises. I reached into my shirt pocket and pulled out my phone. The recording app was running, the red indicator visible. The timestamp showed 6:31 p.m. I'd started it 2 minutes before she walked through the door. Say that last part again, Eleanor. About playing a role for 8 years. Her face went white, then flushed red. You recorded this conversation? In our home? Single-party consent state. Tennessee law says I can record any conversation I'm part of without telling you. And you just confessed to 8 years of fraud on tape. She lunged for the phone. I stood up, stepped back, and tapped twice, uploading the file to cloud storage. The upload completed in 3 seconds. You can't use that, The doorbell rang, cutting her off mid-sentence. "That's Detective Morrison from the Financial Crimes Unit," I said. "Angela from the bank called him 3 hours ago. He's been waiting for me to secure evidence before making contact." I walked past Eleanor to answer the door. She stood frozen in the kitchen, finally out of moves. When I opened the door, a man in his late 40s with sharp eyes and a detective's badge stood on the porch. 2 uniformed officers flanked him. "Mr. Hamilton, I'm Detective Morrison. We need to talk about Derek Lansing." Eleanor tried to recover her composure instantly. She smoothed her shirt, wiped her eyes, and put on a completely different face. "Officers, this is a domestic misunderstanding. My husband is upset about a family financial decision, and he's been recording me without my knowledge, trying to manufacture." Detective Morrison held up his hand, cutting her off. "Mrs. Hamilton, Tennessee is a one-party consent state, so your husband acted within his legal rights. But that's not why we're here. We have questions about Derek Lansing. We've been tracking him for 16 months. He looked at me. "Mr. Hamilton, may we come inside?" I stepped aside, and Morrison entered with the 2 officers. We moved to the living room. Eleanor sat on the edge of the couch, her back straight, her hands folded. She'd invoked her right to remain silent, which was smart. But it was too late. Morrison sat across from us and opened a file folder he'd been carrying. "Mr. Hamilton, you need to understand something. You're not the first person Derek Lansing has targeted. You're the 5th victim we're aware of. Lansing isn't new to this. He served 4 years in federal prison for running this exact scheme against 3 different couples. That was his first conviction. He was released 18 months ago, and we hoped, that prison had reformed him." Morrison's expression hardened. We were wrong. Within 2 months of his release, he was back at it. "The 5 cases I'm about to show you all happened after he got out. He's a repeat offender who got smarter the second time around." He laid out case summaries on the coffee table, each one a separate sheet with names, dates, and amounts. Case 1, Paul and Jennifer Rostoff. Married 6 years. Jennifer drained $43,000 over 14 months, then disappeared with Lansing. Paul reported it, but by the time we started investigating, they were gone. He moved to the second sheet. Case 2, Robert Yates and Amanda Chen. Engaged, planning a wedding. Amanda extracted $38,000 over 11 months. She and Lansing vanished 2 weeks before the wedding. Robert lost his deposit on the venue, the catering, everything. The third sheet made Morrison's expression darken. Case 3, Michael Brennan and Lisa Brennan. Married 9 years, 2 kids. Lisa stole $67,000 over 18 months. Michael noticed irregularities, confronted her. 2 days later, he was found unconscious at the bottom of his basement stairs. Fractured skull, broken collarbone, severe memory loss. I felt my blood go cold. What happened to Lisa? She claimed Michael had been drinking, that he fell. Neighbors reported hearing arguing that night, but there was no physical evidence of an assault. We couldn't prove otherwise. Lisa left town 3 days after Michael was released from the hospital. We haven't found her. Morrison pulled out the 4th summary. Case 4, David Torres and Kelly Hammond. Living together for 3 years. Kelly took $71,000. Both she and Lansing disappeared before we could question them. He looked directly at me. The pattern is consistent. A domestic partner gains financial access. Lansing provides the technical expertise for forgery and identity theft. They extract money in small amounts over 12 to 18 months, then make one final large withdrawal and vanish. Eleanor spoke for the first time since sitting down. I've never met any of those people. You're connecting things that aren't related. Morrison turned to her slowly. I didn't ask if you'd met them, Mrs. Hamilton. Interesting, that's your first response. He pulled a printed email from the folder and slid it across the table to me. The subject line read, Brennan Aftermath. The sender was Eleanor's email address. The date was 4 months ago. I read it out loud. You said it would be clean. The news coverage was everywhere. We need to be smarter with V. No accidents, just the money. Morrison looked at Eleanor. You have the right to remain silent, Mrs. Hamilton. That's probably wise at this point. He turned back to me. Mr. Hamilton, I need to speak with you privately. Officers, please keep Mrs. Hamilton company in the living room. The two uniformed officers positioned themselves near Eleanor as Morrison and I walked to my home office. He closed the door. Mr. Hamilton, you did everything right. You gathered evidence, you called us, you stayed rational. But I need you to understand something. You're in danger. What do you mean? Michael Brennan confronted his wife about suspicious transactions. 2 days later, he nearly died. He still can't remember that entire week. The doctors say the memory loss is permanent. Morrison pulled out his phone and showed me a photograph. This is Paul Rostov from Case 1. He was reported missing 4 months after Jennifer disappeared. Hikers found his body 6 months later in a ravine 40 miles from his home. The medical examiner ruled it accidental. He fell while hiking. But Paul never hiked. His family said he was terrified of heights. My mouth went dry. You think Derek killed him? I think when Lansing gets cornered, he escalates. You have evidence. Eleanor knows it. Derek knows the operation is over. They have nothing to lose and 19 months of planning to protect. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. I showed Morrison, and he nodded. I opened the text message. Vincent Hamilton, you made a mistake calling the police. Eleanor is smart, but she cares too much. I don't. Check your car before you start it tomorrow. Or don't. I'm not picky. Morrison read it over my shoulder and immediately radioed for a bomb squad and forensic team. 30 seconds later, another text came through. Ask Michael Brennan about stairs. Ask Paul Rostov about hiking. You're a smart guy. Do the math. Morrison's jaw tightened. That's a direct threat. We're taking Mrs. Hamilton into custody right now, and we're issuing an immediate warrant for Lansing's arrest. We walked back to the living room. Morrison nodded to the officers. Cuff her. Eleanor Hamilton, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and we'll be questioning you in connection with the Michael Brennan assault case. You have the right to remain silent. As the officer read Eleanor her rights and placed handcuffs on her wrists, she turned to me. Tears streamed down her face. Real ones this time. Or maybe just another version of the performance. Vincent, please. I made mistakes, but I never wanted you hurt. Derek is dangerous. I tried to stop him. You have to believe me. The words were delivered with perfect desperation. For a split second, doubt crept into my mind. What if she was telling the truth? What if Derek had manipulated her, and now she was... Morrison put a hand on my shoulder. Mr. Hamilton, I've read the emails, all of them. She called you the Mark. She wrote detailed psychological profiles about your habits to maximize what she called compliance behavior. She's not a victim. She's his partner. The tears are tactical. I watched the officers walk Eleanor to the patrol car. She was still crying, still performing, right up until they closed the door. Morrison turned to me. The good ones make you doubt reality until the very end. That's how they get away with it for so long. Can you stay somewhere else tonight? A friend's house, a hotel, somewhere Lansing won't think to look? I nodded, but I wasn't really listening. Because I just realized something. If Derek was willing to threaten me this openly, he was already planning his next move, and I had no idea what it would be. Morrison made arrangements for me to stay at a hotel downtown, but first we had work to do. Derek Lansing was still out there, and according to Morrison, men like him don't just disappear quietly when their operations fell apart. We checked the motel on Highway 9 that Mrs. Hamilton told us about earlier, Morrison said, his phone pressed to his ear as he coordinated with his team. Room was paid throughout the week in cash, completely cleared out. He knew something was wrong before we even got there. The bomb squad finished sweeping my car at 7:50 p.m. They found nothing, but Morrison had it towed anyway as a precaution. The threat might have been psychological, he explained. Make you afraid to move, afraid to act. Keep you paralyzed while he figures out his next step. At 7:52 p.m., Morrison received a call from the station. Eleanor was in an interrogation room, and she was asking to make a deal. Morrison played me the body camera footage on his tablet. Eleanor sat across from a detective, her hands folded on the table. No tears now, just calculation. I want to talk about a plea agreement, she said on the recording. You'd need to provide something valuable, the detective replied. Right now, we have you on conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and we're building a case for accessory to assault in the Michael Brennan incident. Eleanor's face went pale at that last part. I had nothing to do with what happened to Michael Brennan. The detective slid a piece of paper across the table, the email Morrison had shown me earlier. This email references the Brennan aftermath and specifically mentions avoiding accidents with your husband. That makes you, at minimum, aware of what Derek did to Brennan. At maximum, it makes you a co-conspirator in attempted murder. Eleanor was silent for a long moment. What do you want from me? Derek Lansing, his location, his plans, his contacts. You help us bring him in safely, and we'll discuss reduced charges. Eleanor took exactly 45 seconds before she answered. I watched the clock in the corner of the video footage tick forward. What do you need me to do? Morrison paused the video and looked at me. She's willing to help draw him out, but it's risky. Lansing is smart, and he's going to be suspicious. What's the plan? We have Mrs. Hamilton text him that the situation is contained. You're rattled, police bought her story. They both need to move up their timeline and meet tonight to split the cash and leave. Will he believe that? Morrison shrugged. Depends how desperate he is. He's lost his partner, his target, and his exit strategy. He might take the bait just to recover what he can. At 8:15 p.m., Eleanor sent the text from the interrogation room, Morrison's team watching over her shoulder. V is rattled, but contained. The police bought the cousin story. They questioned and released me. We need to move up the timeline. Let meet at storage unit at 9 p.m. tonight to split cash and leave. The storage unit was real. Eleanor had rented it 8 months ago under a fake name, paid in cash. Morrison's team had already traced the rental agreement from Eleanor's financial records and secured a warrant that afternoon. Inside was $22,000 in cash, 2 sets of forged passports, prepaid flight confirmations to Costa Rica, and a folder labeled with another man's name. Research on what Morrison called the next target. We waited. 22 minutes passed with no response. Then Derek's reply came through. How do I know you're not with them right now? Morrison had anticipated this. He coached Eleanor through a response, but Derek wasn't satisfied with the text. He demanded a video call. They set it up in the interrogation room. Morrison and two detectives positioned just outside the camera frame. Eleanor held the phone, her face composed. "Derek, I'm in my car 2 blocks from the house," she said, reading Morrison's script. "Vincent is inside giving some statement to the police. We have maybe an hour before he realizes I left." Derek's face filled the screen. He looked tense, alert. "Where's your wedding ring?" Eleanor glanced down at her bare hand. She'd been wearing it when arrested, but it had been taken during booking. She recovered without hesitating. "I left it on the bathroom counter. I couldn't stand wearing it after today." "What was Vincent wearing when you left the bank?" Derek asked. Eleanor paused. Morrison held up a note with the answer written on it. "His gray suit, the one he wears to investor meetings. Why does that matter?" Derek's expression relaxed slightly. "Just making sure you're you and not someone reading a script." Then he said something that made Morrison tense. "Storage unit is compromised. They might have followed you from the house. New plan. Meet me at the construction site off Route 7, the foundation pit where we met back in March. You remember it." Morrison muted Eleanor's phone and swore under his breath. "Completely different location. 15-minute drive. We won't have time to set up proper surveillance." Eleanor unmuted. "Derek, I don't want to meet in a construction site at night. The storage unit has everything we need." "The storage unit is a trap, or you're being followed," Derek said flatly. "If you want out of this mess, it's Route 7 in 30 minutes. Otherwise, I will leave alone, and you can explain to the police how you lost access to the money." He ended the call. Morrison looked at me. "I need a civilian vehicle. Your car is in evidence, and if we send a police vehicle, he'll spot it immediately." "What are you asking?" "I need you to drive Mrs. Hamilton to the location. My team will follow at a distance, but Lansing can't know we're there. You'll have 2 plainclothes officers hidden in the vehicle with you, and we'll have a tracker on you the entire time." I stared at him. "You want me to drive my wife, who spent almost 2 years planning to rob me, to meet her accomplice in an isolated construction site? I want Derek Lansing off the streets before he hurts someone else. You're the only leverage we have that won't spook him." Every survival instinct I had screamed at me to refuse. But I thought about Michael Brennan, still missing pieces of his memory, about Paul Rostov, found dead in a ravine, about whoever was in that folder marked Next Target. "I'll do it." Morrison drove me to the station, where Eleanor was brought out in handcuffs. We took Morrison's personal truck, an older Ford with civilian plates. 2 officers climbed into the extended cab area, hidden from view. A GPS tracker went under the seat. Eleanor sat in the passenger seat next to me as I drove. We didn't speak for the first 5 minutes. Then she said quietly, "Thank you for doing this." I kept my eyes on the road. "I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it so Derek doesn't do to someone else what you did to me." For what it's worth, the first year was real. I did care about you at the beginning. I gripped the steering wheel. "Save it for the parole board, Eleanor." The construction site came into view at 8:52 p.m., a half-built commercial complex, dark except for a few security lights. The foundation pit sat in the center, maybe 12 feet deep, surrounded by loose gravel and construction equipment. Derek was already there, standing at the edge of the pit. He had a backpack slung over one shoulder. I parked 50 feet away. Eleanor got out alone, per Derek's texted instructions. "Where's the cash from the storage unit?" Derek called out. Eleanor walked closer. "I couldn't get to it. Police were watching the facility." Derek's hand moved to his jacket pocket. Then what exactly am I meeting you for? Derek, we can still leave. My sister has money we can... Your sister who you stole $15,000 from last year? Derek's voice was cold. The one who'll testify against you the second she gets the chance. You got caught, Eleanor. I know how this works. They offer you a deal. You give me up. Everyone wins except me. You really think I'd fall for this? Morrison's tactical team moved in from 3 directions. Derek saw them, turned to run, but the edge of the foundation pit was unstable. Loose gravel gave way under his feet, and he slid down into the pit. Officers descended immediately, weapons drawn. Derek was cuffed within 30 seconds. No injury, no drama. Morrison pulled him to his feet. Derek looked up at me, still standing by the truck. You should have taken the fall, Vincent, he said. Brennan did. Rostov did. It would have been easier for everyone. I walked to the edge of the pit and looked down at him. The difference is I fought back. 4 months after Derek's arrest, I sat in a courtroom and watched justice work the way it's supposed to. Derek Lansing stood before the judge in an orange jumpsuit, handcuffed, facing charges across 5 different cases. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, forged documents, victim testimony, and the emails Eleanor had written detailing their entire operation. He took a plea deal to avoid trial. 18 years in federal prison, eligible for parole in 14. Restitution ordered to all 5 victims totaling $340,000. When the detective investigating Paul Rostov's death found new forensic evidence linking Derek to the scene, additional murder charges were filed. Derek would likely die in prison. Eleanor's sentencing came 2 weeks later. She'd testified against Derek, hoping for leniency. The judge wasn't impressed. Mrs. Hamilton, you didn't just steal money. You spent 8 years systematically deceiving your husband, planning his financial destruction, and based on the evidence presented, you were aware your partner had harmed previous victims. 9 years in federal prison, eligible for parole in 6. The judge said Eleanor was also ordered to pay me $28,400 in restitution, plus $15,000 to her sister for a separate theft I hadn't even known about. Her prison wages, 85 cents per hour, would be garnished for the rest of her working life. As they led her out of the courtroom, she looked at me one last time. I didn't look away. I wanted her to see exactly what she'd lost. A man who would have given her anything if she'd just been honest. Instead, she got a cell and decades of regret. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks later. The fraud conviction voided any claim she had to shared assets. I sold the house 2 months after that. Too many fake memories in those rooms. Financially, I recovered $52,000 from the blocked withdrawal, plus $22,000 in cash from the storage unit. The restitution order meant I'd eventually get back every dollar Eleanor stole, even if it took 20 years of garnished prison wages. I could wait. My business thrived. When I disclosed the situation to my board, they saw it as proof of my ability to handle a crisis. We landed 3 new major contracts that quarter. 8 months into Eleanor's sentence, I received a letter from her. No apology, just an attempt at explanation. Her childhood, her father's crimes, her decision to never be a victim. You were the best, Mark, because you were genuinely good, she wrote. I don't expect forgiveness. I didn't respond. She didn't deserve my words. A year after her arrest, I bought a downtown loft with floor-to-ceiling windows, the opposite of the house we'd shared. Everything visible, nothing hidden. I started dating again, carefully this time. Background checks became standard. Separate finances became non-negotiable for at least 2 years. Some women found it excessive. The right one wouldn't. I ran into Michael Brennan, the third victim, at a coffee shop 18 months later. His memory had partially returned after Eleanor and Derek's convictions gave him closure. He thanked me for pursuing the case when he couldn't. "You stopped them," he said. "That's what matters." 2 years after that phone call from Angela Reyes changed everything. I realized Eleanor and Derek had actually given me something valuable. Proof that I was stronger than they'd calculated. They'd spent 19 months studying my routines, exploiting my trust, planning my destruction. I'd spent 3 hours finding their evidence, 2 days building my case, and 1 night watching their entire operation collapse. They wanted to steal my future. Instead, they lost theirs. If this story kept you hooked, hit that subscribe button because I bring you revenge stories like this every day. And don't forget to drop a comment. Do you think Eleanor deserved more time? Or was 9 years enough?